Welcome to the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query. This podcast is dedicated to developing intentional health for women. Former 400-pound fat man turned health and fitness professional, specializing in women's health. In this podcast, you will find over a decade of experience in the health and fitness industry, serving women to become their most intentional self through strength training, nutrition, and lifestyle practices. Each week, we will dive into a variety of different topics, ranging from interviews with women leading the way in the health and fitness industry, client case studies throughout the years, myth busting, social media trends, female hormones, gut health, and so much more. We are not normal. We are intentional. Welcome to another episode of the Intentional Health for Women podcast. I'm your host, Garrett GQ Query, and today I'm joined by three-time Miss Olympia, Whitney Jones.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. It's truly an honor to have you come on, and can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. I know it's a long time coming. We kept trying, and then we finally got our schedules coordinated, and here we are.
I think one of the emails you got back to me, and I was like in Mexico, like on my deathbed sick. Like I got sick like the third day I was like in Mexico, and not from the water. Everybody keeps making, they're like, oh, did you get, no, it was just literally, I just like caught a bug, like one of these nasty like viruses that have been going around. So
on vacation. So you didn't tell me that part. Yeah. That's a bummer.
It was a bummer.
But how long were you there?
5 days. So I got like 2.5 days not sick, 2.5 days.
That's not fair. You got to go back and get a redo. I need a do-over here. That's only fair.
All right. Whitney Jones approved. We can go on vacation.
Totally. Especially Mexico. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, how fun. Sounds amazing right now.
Have you ever been?
I have not. That's one place I have not been in Mexico. I've been to several other locations.
It's such an easy flight, and it's just, it's beautiful.
I know. I need to make it out there.
Someone actually told me who was like, they lived there for a while, that like just north of there, there's like kind of like a new and up and coming spot. It's like an hour and a half like north of the Puerto Vallarta airport. It's like, really, really interesting. Ooh. So your book is titled When Broken.
Yes.
Take me to the exact moment you realized that your brokenness wasn't a weakness, but you could become your greatest strength.
Gosh, honestly, it's hard to really pinpoint one because the whole core of the book is that life is going to challenge you nonstop. And once you realize that this is the norm, that life's challenges will continue to come up, then it becomes not a big deal when something heavy happens. So it's hard to pinpoint one, but I'd say to answer your question, it was back, there was a time, and I talk about it in the book, where I had just opened my gym, my first business. Entrepreneurship is scary. It's hard. There's a lot of fun, but man, you talk about a roller coaster. And I'd put everything on the line financially, like my house, my cars. I had two very little kids. Suddenly life just hit me. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. It was a very rough battle for 8 months. So very swift, and someone so close to my heart, where that just alone, that was something that just was a absolute catastrophe for my life. The most heavy thing in my life that I had ever experienced to that point. Right after that, some stuff happened with my marriage that, again, shocking, unexpected. Suddenly, I'm now single and in the process of a divorce with two very little kids, 3 and 5. Business was going okay, I thought, and then discovered some stuff was happening with my business partner, had to exit with one of them, and now the business was in a very rough spot. Is it going to survive? Is it not? So everything in our lives, you have this vision when you're young, growing up, graduate from college. This is my life. Everything that I had wanted and things were going pretty well came crumbling and crashing down. And not to say that there was this moment where I was like, I'm not going to be defined by this, but it was a series of a couple weeks where I just kept crumbling, and just kept getting hit. And I thought, wow, like this is my life. Like this is not what I wanted. My mom, who's my best friend, I mean, I have chills. Like it was heavy to think, how am I going to go on in life without her? Then the stuff happened with my husband and my marriage, and completely blindsided where I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive this? And with 2 little kids who you never want your children impacted by something like that. And then the only other in your life too, you've got your business. That was a huge mess. So I finally realized, wow, I'm going to be either a statistic that everyone expects me to just become a lunatic, crazy. This is a lot to handle at once, and it would be acceptable. Right. Or I can change this and I can flip the script and say, hell no, this will not happen. This is not my life. I will choose my own destiny. I will choose my own legacy. And it was just that fire that I had, through moments throughout my life. But at that moment, that was truly the springboard that I went, no, I can choose the rest of my life from this point on, because you can't handle a lot of things, or you can't, I shouldn't say you can't handle, you can't control a lot of things that life hands you. What you can control is how you deal with it, what you do in the situation, and how you rise above it. So at that point, I said, I need to take control of the things that I can control and figure out a way to deal with, manage, and navigate the uncontrolled situations that will continue to come up. And at that point, that's where I've never looked back. And in a way, you never want bad things. But I can say at this point in my life, I embrace these crazy challenges that still continue to come, because there's so many powerful lessons. And then more importantly, what you learn about yourself in those hard, heavy moments, that's power. That's something you get to hang your hat on and say, I got through that. I survived. I rose above all the bullshit, all the heaviness, all the hardship, and I'm still here thriving.
I read something today. Losing will teach you more lessons than winning ever will.
100%. 100%. And you know what, to be honest too, you and I both coach athletes. It's hard to watch someone win really quickly right off the bat. Yep. They don't appreciate the grind, the hustle. You got to get kicked in your teeth a few times before you realize, okay, all right, now I get why it's so valuable when you do win. And if you haven't been kicked a few times, you don't have the support of everyone cheering for you, because you rose and you stood back up and you kept fighting, you kept your focus. So it is almost harder as we coach athletes to go, yay, I'm so excited for you. You won the overall title your first show. It's almost, it sets them up for failure, because you're supposed to have that rise of stepping stones. Yep. When that doesn't happen and you experience immediate, brilliance, it's hard then, because where do you go when you're at the top? So it is tough. The best lessons come when you're humbled.
Absolutely. Were you at that point in your life when all this unfolded, you lose your mom, divorced, business, were you competing at that time?
I had just started competing.
Just started
amateur. So it wasn't, again, it was something that I was like, this needs to be sidelined, because again, there's all these things I'm trying to manage. What I found is, again, really focusing on what can I control? And I needed something positive every day. And it had nothing to do with necessarily getting to a show, but it was, I want to be able to, at the end of the day, go, I got a workout in. I got that time to disconnect from the chaos or the sadness or the negativity or the things that I couldn't control, but I could control going into the gym and getting a workout in, or going for a jog around the neighborhood, or again, with 2 little kids, sitting there, kind of feeding them, getting them ready, putting them down, and then hiding in their cribs and doing some sit-ups. I mean, there's something you can do. So I utilized that as a tool for me to feel gratitude in my efforts every single day. So again, it's sometimes the smallest things, but then I thought, okay, I like this. I love the creative aspect. Being in fitness, we get to design a routine, and, our creative side comes out. We can put our emotions into it. So I said, I'm doing this. I'm going to continue. My mom never got to see me perform a fitness routine. And it was like, I honestly said, I don't know if I could do this because she was always my biggest fan. I thought, what am I going to do? Like she won't be in the audience with me. And so it was a hard thing to think, will I ever actually get on stage? I'd competed in figure once and then transitioned into fitness, but that's when it all changed. And I thought, no, she'll still watch me. She'll still support me. And knowing that she was such a fan of me and constantly, I mean, you talk about you can't have a pity party. My mom would put me in my place so quick, which I loved. But she would have been the first person to say, are you kidding me? You're going to really put aside something you enjoy, something that you could really excel at because of this? Yeah. So, again, it was that good reminder to say, go all in. And I had zero expectations, never thought I would turn pro, never thought I'd ever even be qualified for Olympia, place at Olympia, win Olympia, never. But I honestly think that's why I had the success, because I didn't do it for the outcome. I was never focused on the end result because you can't control that. It's a subjective sport. This isn't a race where there's a finish line and there's cameras and lasers to tell you winner, first, second, third, whatever, nothing. Yeah. This is subjective. All I can control is my efforts. And I love the process. I love the creativity. I love the science behind learning how meal plans and water and salt manipulate how you look. I loved all of that. Those were things I could control. And randomly, I started doing well. And I thought, wow, this is kind of fun, but I'm not putting pressure on myself. I want to have fun. And so I wasn't even competing at that time, but I do believe fitness, not necessarily competing, but fitness was something that saved me and kept me focused on something positive in my life that I could control.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's a big piece of why I'm going to compete in your show.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. This is so cool. You have how many months now? We've got what, 9, 10? Where are we? Anyway, so we got November.
9 months out.
We're going to have to do like a updated interview right before the show and kind of do that. I love it. And the thing is, this is your first time hitting the stage. There's nothing like your first show. Like you always remember it, the nerves, the excitement. You have your family and friends there cheering you on. As I elevated in my career and pro and bigger stages, I never forgot that. And when I had the opportunity to be a promoter, I said, I want to make my amateur shows a party, as if it's the Olympia for the amateur athletes.
There we go.
And I really try to do that. I mean, getting swag and all the goodie bags and then having your time on stage, making it fun for your family and friends. So I am honored that you chose my show, and man, you're going to have a blast.
Thank you. So you lost your mom in a very short window of time, right? Like you said, 8 months. Like it was kind of out of nowhere, not a whole lot of time.
Yes, completely out of nowhere.
And you said she was like, was she an athlete? Was she like a busy career woman? Was she like, what did that like look like? And what did those final months look like for you?
So she was a teacher all growing up, and she was an athlete when she was younger. She had some health issues that kind of held her back a little bit, but she was always still focused on trying to be active, more importantly, eating healthy. But I'd say my athletic side came from having 2 older brothers who I was constantly trying to keep up with. But the one thing with both of my parents, like we came up from very humble surroundings, everything with us. So I was taught and modeled the behavior that you just work. So my mom being a full-time school teacher, she worked in a low-income neighborhood by choice because she wanted to make an impact.
Yeah.
I loved that. I mean, we were always going to her school to help kids in need, doing all the fundraisers. So I was that was something I found joy in and love, and giving back, and the impact that you can have just by doing good deeds and doing for others, which is why I think I enjoy it so much now in my career, as the businesses that I have but also she never thought anything was out of the realm. So, she's working a full-time job. She wanted to increase her income, but at that time, the only way to do that was to be a counselor, which means you got to go get your master's. So my dad was in a position, he had just got laid off. She decided, okay, we're doing this. He's out stressed, working, trying to find a job. She goes into a master's program while working full-time with 3 kids, gets her master's degree, gets the ability to be a junior high school counselor, which again, she stayed in that same area. And again, it just showed me like, you just work and work and work. So, and there was just no excuses. There was no pity side of it. When she got diagnosed, it was totally random. And when they found it, she went in, she was never sick. She went in thinking it was a cold. Long story short, they diagnosed her with stage 4 cancer, lung cancer, and it had already spread. Yeah. So they started chemo a week later, and it was fast, aggressive. The thing, though, was she never looked at it as a negative side. She kind of was I claimed it was denial, but I think it was just her way of trying to not feel sorry for herself and focus on, I'm going to utilize each day to the max. Again, my boys were little, so she wanted to be the best Nana to my kids and my brother's kids at the time, because she knew it wasn't a good prognosis. And even though she said, I'm living forever, I think we all knew it wasn't going to be that way. But honestly, until the day that she ended up going in the hospital and didn't come out, it was like, no, I'm going to be cured. You just watch. And I love that mindset. Again, your mindset is so powerful that I don't think people give it credit. Wow. But it's one thing that I look at what I've achieved as an athlete. You look at me on paper and it's like, what is this chick doing? I got started late. I was 34, which is not normal for someone in the fitness division to try to start a career with 0 gymnastics background, no formal training, and then being self-taught, and then come up with the idea of, I'm going to learn how to break dance too, right before I turned 40. Like, what am I doing? Right? And then end up being a champ. So, but again, there was just no limits. I was doing it to have fun.
Did you dance in high school and stuff?
So I was a cheerleader in high school, and then I did dance for ASU. So I have that as background. Yeah. But back then, we didn't have like coaches who taught us how to tumble or anything. It was more like, hey, do you know how to do a backflip? No. Do you? No, I think it's done like this. So I always had a little bit of a daredevil in me, which has panned out well, but it does explain, I've broken almost every bone in my body. I've had 18 surgeries. I've got metal throughout.
From
not just this career of being a fitness athlete, but that's just in life.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm like, not just in the career. No, but yeah, I always would just try stuff. So again, the fitness division was kind of a perfect knack for me because I had the desire and I wasn't afraid, which most adults, it's hard to teach an adult any type of gymnastics, the ability to flip and go forward, go backwards. The fear is a hard thing to overcome.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, yeah, whatever.
Send it.
Totally.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You lost your father as well.
No, so my dad is still alive,
okay.
But he does have full-blown dementia. So anyone who understands that, he is a happy, smiley man, but he doesn't, it's almost, sadly, it's a shell of a human. He has no recall, and that's tough. But again, I appreciate the years that I had. I had 2 amazing parents, and not everyone has that.
No. Yeah, that's amazing. And I can empathize. Unfortunately, I lost my mom 16 years ago now. And due to like how she passed away, there was some years that kind of got taken away from us from a perspective of like, just being fully there.
Yeah.
So I can understand for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout your time, you had some bouts with like anxiety and depression. Honestly, like understandably so, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like given everything that you went through or have been through.
Mm-hmm.
In the moments when you felt most powerless, what was a thought or strategy that kept you from just completely falling apart?
This may be wrong to admit. It's crazy because how do you tell somebody that that's not the proper way to think if it actually helps them?
Yeah.
And people have said this, and I am complete open book, so I just say it like it is. For me, when I've been in dark places or, really down, I always think that there is somebody who would trade places with you in a heartbeat, because I don't care who you are. There is somebody in whatever circumstances who would love the opportunity to trade.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as I mentioned with my mom, we did a lot of everything. And it wasn't just like at Christmas, you go and do good for the needy or the homeless or, women who've been abused, whatever the case was.
Yeah, it sounds
we
like
were
it was
exposed.
like a regular
it was
thing.
always stuff. Seeing that at a young age, and as I grew up, I was exposed to saying, wow, I am very fortunate to have a house over my head, to have a family, to have 2 brothers and a mom and dad, even just the basics that people would die for. So when I've been in those situations, I would literally sit down and physically write on a piece of paper all the things that the homeless guy on the corner would trade for me, or the person that is addicted to drugs would trade for me, or the person that just lost their wife that would trade with me. And it puts things in perspective. And it's awful to think about people in a worse spot than you, but it's always what helped me, because then you have the opportunity to have gratitude for what you do have. And that always helped lift me up. Now, it wasn't overnight, but that's why it was important for me to write it down, because sometimes I'd carry it with me for a couple days until I felt stable. Like, hey, remind yourself that you do have blessings, utilize them. Otherwise, that person deserves to have what you have. And so it was a way for me to kind of wake up and go, this is a tough time. I'm going to survive. Again, I have a house that I'm laying my head down on. That's not always the case. I am surrounded by people who love me. That's not always the case. Right. Some of the most simple things people would strive to have in a heartbeat. And so it allowed me an opportunity to really focus on the simple things to be grateful for. And I'll be honest, sometimes there was like 3. And I look back and I've saved not all of them, but I've saved several. And it's interesting to look back and go, gosh, I was at a really hard place there. Or I was so blinded that I could literally only list these things.
Right.
Wow. Now, a lot of that comes with maturity to go, be grateful for a lot more. But that's what helped me. And when I talk with people who are struggling, that's the easiest way to go. Really write it down, and don't be selfish. And think about if you had to ask a friend of yours, because if you can't make a decent list, think about what your friend would say or your family member would say. And then if you can't reflect on that and go, okay, I do have some things working in my favor. How do I capitalize on these to get out of this dark hole? And it's a real issue. Depression's a real thing. Anxiety's a real thing. Some people abuse it, and that's unfortunate, but recognizing it, knowing that you don't want to stay in that place is powerful. And then making sure there's resources everywhere for people. Utilize them. Utilize them. Don't try to feel like this is something you have to do and get out of this dark place by yourself.
No. Community is so huge. Something a friend's told me relating to like what you just said a lot is, in the couple times that I've heard it is like, he's like, if all of us took all of our problems and threw them in the center of a room, mind you, both of the times that this has come up is like in a restaurant, right? So a couple hundred people maybe in a restaurant, you would choose your you would choose your problems 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah. Right. And a lot of times you know how to navigate through them too.
Yeah. Like you don't know what you don't know, right? Like you don't know what anybody else around you, especially in that setting, right? Like, and it's so easy to overlook. It's so easy to overlook how good your life might be and not realize, like, because you don't know what someone else is going through. You're sitting in a restaurant and there could be 50 people and like, you know, like to your point, maybe one of them just lost their wife. Yeah. Lost a kid. Is going through a divorce. Like you never know what someone's going through. Right. And it goes to show it's like most of the time you're going to pick up your own problems every single time. And it's lessons, right? Right.
And everyone's going through something. That's where, with the book, the title, When Broken, there's this facade out there right now, and especially it's pushed with social media that everyone's life is so perfect. Well, of course, people aren't going to put all their drama. Well, some do. They're not going to put all the negative crap or the bad days all the time. They're going to put stuff out there that makes their life happy or makes them look good. But we're all broken. Everyone has stories. Everyone's dealing with crap. Once you realize, oh, we're all in the same boat, sweet, then it doesn't feel so heavy. Right. But what sets people apart between those who truly thrive and those who just survive is the mastery of winning broken. How do you win broken? How do you recognize, okay, it's not that bad. Okay, tomorrow's a new day. How do I get out of this? Once you realize we're all in the same level playing field, but are you going to be the one that just is kind of just getting by? Or are you going to take your brokenness and go, all right, come on, life, let's go. The giddy up, we're on.
Well, because at the end of the day, it's like you said, you grew up with humble beginnings. I grew up with humble beginnings. And to your point, it's like life's going to kick in no matter what, whether you're winning or not winning. Yeah. I would argue that, and I think you'll say the same, is like winning feels a lot better while you're getting kicked.
Yeah, totally. Yes. Yeah. Anyone who doesn't agree, what? They might have been kicked too many times.
Society often tells women to be strong, to hide their struggles. What was the most terrifying moment of vulnerability, and how did you embrace that vulnerability and actually become a source of power?
One of the scariest times, honestly, was when I broke my neck. That was scary because there was so much unknown. And I broke my neck. I talk about it in the book. I was doing head spins. So I was getting ready for a competition. Okay. Yep. And I was like, oh, I've never seen anyone on stage do the head spins. So I'd been working on it for months and I had it down, and you kick up, and I was doing multiple revolutions, and then you pop off your head and you do this flip, and I splat on my back. Badass cool. Like it was like, this is going to blow everyone's mind. Right. But for me, I was like, you know, again, just kind of being this competitive athlete, I wanted more. So I was like, I'm going to go home, grab my snowboard helmet, went to a place that had carpet, because clearly the two of those together, you're going to spin way faster, which I did. And sadly, I had way too much momentum, went to do the kick off my head to do the flip, and it went and, you know, splat. And went, whoa, what is that? Now I've torn my shoulders multiple times. And when you hurt your neck, there's a lot of nerve damage. I thought it was my shoulder again. And I thought, oh man. So I shut it down for a couple hours. But in total Whitney form, I was like, I think I'm fine. I'm going to go practice my routine later today and just do lower body stuff. So I had this other trick where I was doing, it's a one-legged diagonal gainer flip, and then you land in a push-up, which you didn't really need much of your upper body, I thought. Well, I did a few and thinking, oh, this is all legs, right? But my arm just was like, nah, we're off duty. And it was not catching. So after a few face plants, I was like, I'm going to shut it down. Fast forward, went to my sports therapist. I think it was like 2 days later. And I'm going, yeah, I messed up my shoulder. You got to work this out. Well, I'm laying face down and she looks, and I guess something happens when you break your neck. And there was this big swollen, like pocket on the back of my neck. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I think you broke your neck. You need to go to a doctor right now. You need to see a neurosurgeon." I'm like, this chick's crazy. Like, why are we being so dramatic? It's a shoulder injury. Well, it wasn't. Yeah. So once I found out it was my neck and that surgery was the only way, it was scary. Insurance wasn't covering it. The surgery was $120,000. So my doctor was trying to fight to get coverage because I didn't have that kind of money.
Right.
Again, I'm a single mom. I'm trying to run businesses. I thought, I got to have this. Well, in the process of waiting, I was losing function. So at this point, my arm was done. It was like someone just cut it off. Like It had no function at all. The scariest part being a mom is I want to hug my children. I want to throw a football. I want to be that active mom. What if I can't do this? It had nothing to do with the sport itself, but I thought, I don't want to be this mom that's just, in the corner, not active. Again, so I just went into, okay, we've got to fast track this. I need to have the surgery. Each day was costing me function and it was basically increasing the risk that I'd lose complete mobility. Wow. So by the time I got into surgery, there was a 50-50 shot that I'd get function back. I'm like, we got to do it and we got to do it now. I remember waking up and the first thing I did, because again, I had no feeling, as I woke up and I went, and I'm like, we're on, game on. We are good. I can feel it. It's only going to get better from here. And it literally, that's all I needed.
Oh, you woke up from surgery.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute. Like you woke up and it just magically got better.
Oh my gosh, I wish. No. So I woke up from surgery, but I could feel the exterior and I thought, we are good. So I was in a neck brace, obviously for 7 weeks. And I'm like, we're going to make this party. I blinged it out. I was making videos, being a jokester. Like, we're going to have some fun with this. Because if you can't have fun in some crazy moments, that's what helped me because it was scary. Yeah. I thought, is this my life? And then more importantly, in that time that I was waiting, I was doing all sorts of research. Anyone that had my exact surgery or my exact injury, no one ever talked about life again. It was just like, it was like a death sentence. Now they didn't die, but it was like all their dreams, ambition. If you were an athlete, just call it a day. And I thought, this is not how I'm going out. I'm not done. Like, I didn't know if I would ever be back to where I was, but I made an announcement morning of surgery and I'm laying in my bed and I said, 276 days from today, I will step on the Arnold Classic stage. This is my declaration. I will do it. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm going to do it. And I did. And I won. That was my first world championship title. And it's just pure like drive mindset. Again, on paper, should have never happened. And to make things crazier, I tore my ACL 4 weeks prior. Going into it. So 9 months after breaking my neck, having surgery, going in, feeling good, but knowing I can't do a large majority of what my skills were because your upper body atrophy, you have no coordination. Then I tear my ACL. So I go in to compete for a world championship title with no upper body and only one good leg and had to perform with my metal heavy brace. But I'm telling you, that's where mindset, people don't believe mindset can do anything. I will challenge you all day, every day, because there is no reason why physically with my capabilities, I should have been able to win, especially when I'd never won before and I come out on top. But it's just a different grit. You focus on what you can do. I mean, I'm 4 weeks out. I had to redesign my entire routine and go, what am I going to be able to pull off with one freaking leg? But I learned crazy skills, way unconventional stuff that I brought to the stage, the entertainment, the charisma. I'm like, I've got to do a bunch of smoke and mirrors so they don't realize. No one knew about my ACL.
That you're real broken.
Yeah, that I was completely shattered. Everyone knew about my neck, but no one knew about the knee until I won. And Arnold goes, so what's with this contraption on your leg? And I said, well, I tore my ACL a few weeks ago, but I wasn't going to quit. And I have to go pretty soon because I'm flying home. I have surgery tomorrow morning. That's how the world found out. And it's like, wait, you just competed 9 months after breaking your neck. And then this happened. And it's like, yeah, again, there's power in when you are that devoted and dedicated to your goals on what you can accomplish. And the point was not to win. The point was to show up, so that I wanted to be a story on the internet when people Googled and said neck injury, career ending, whatever the case was. I needed to see at least one success story. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So my goal was, at the end of the day, I just needed someone to see I showed up, not knowing how I was going to perform, but I showed up to show there is life after a pretty severe neck injury. You can come back.
So that gave you your ticket to the first O, yeah?
I had already competed at the Olympia, but I ended up winning my first Olympia 6 months after the ACL surgery. So I won the Arnold in 2018, 9 months after my broken neck with a torn ACL.
Yeah. Then
had surgery the next day, rehab 6 months later, basically another one-legged routine, and I won my first Olympia title. Yeah.
So
in a division that's all based on athletic performance, explosiveness, and I'm older. There was never a mom. I was the first mom to ever win the Olympia title, which I didn't find out until the next day. And I'm like, that's pretty rad. Like, again, it's not everyone's goal to ever be on the Olympia stage, and it's certainly not every mom's goal.
No.
But it's like, listen, ladies, you can do that. You can do this. Maybe not, again, your goal isn't get on the Olympia stage, but you can get your body back. You can feel confident and sexy again. Like, do not think that having a child, going through childbirth, is your death sentence of your body.
Yeah.
Why? Heck no.
No.
And now there's a few other moms, which I think is so cool, that have won since I won. But yeah, I get to actually say I was the first mom.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool. As 3-time fitness Miss Olympia, the world sees your physical strength, but what internal battles were you fighting that no trophy could represent?
Being a single mom, battling multiple injuries. I mean, at the elite level for a fitness athlete who is traveling the world, competing on stages, competing at the Olympia, most fitness athletes are broken. So I'm not the only one, but trying to deal with those injuries, raising 2 boys who they are always my priority. They always have been, like their school events, their sports, their practices, their games. I wasn't missing it.
Yeah.
Running businesses. So, I started with one, and then at the peak of my career too, even competing, I had 6 businesses I was running. The hardest battle was the balance and trying to give yourself grace, because of course my boys were the first thing. Running my businesses were second. This is a hobby. Yep. Even though this is my career as an athlete, it's still a hobby. Yep. No one's forcing me to do it. It's not paying bills. So I would have to every day battle going, okay, I've got 80 things to do today, and I only really have time for 11. Where are the priorities? Yeah. That's where it became a struggle to be strong, to be happy, to show up for this meeting that this meeting is BS and you don't really need to be here, but you got to put a smile on your face and go, I am so happy to be here for this meeting, or showing up to my kids' practice because, they forgot to tell me it got moved up 2 hours earlier. Today was supposed to be routine practice day because I only had 2 this week. Now there's no routine practice because I got to get my son to soccer practice. Never got the email. We got to go and show up with a smile. That was probably, it may not sound hard, but you have to constantly go, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I thrive under pressure. It's kind of a joke amongst friends. When my back's against the wall, that's when I perform best. If it's not, I don't.
Yeah.
The one Olympia I did without an injury is when I lost my title. And it's like but it's true. It's like I didn't have that push of, oh my God, this is bad. I've really got to overcompensate. And I loved that Olympia, but my back wasn't against the wall.
Yeah.
I was like, this is weird. I feel pretty good going into the show. Nothing's broken. What? Even though it's so random to say, but it helped me in life to go, what is important? At the end of the day, winning a title is great. Competing in a show is great. Missing important moments for my kids is not great. And the stage would always be there. Again, even sometimes with business, would I have loved to take on that new project? Yes. Could that have maybe brought more revenue in for the business? Yes. Is it feasible with my time? No. So you have to go, where are your priorities? What is realistic for you to get done? Because if you're spread too thin, you're not doing anything well. And that's a hard balance for highly driven people, entrepreneurs, single parents, people who are trying to start their first business. It can be a very bad cycle to get in mentally. Mm-hmm. So that was probably the hardest thing is, physically on the outside, people are like, you are so strong and you're so strong internally. Yes and no. I'm human too.
Yeah. I think it's something, a mentor of mine actually said on the show not too long ago is like, we need to stop minimizing problems as like, oh, that's a first world problem.
Yeah.
Because like kind of circling back full circle to what you spoke about earlier, as far as like you grew up in a home where you served a lot and you saw people who were less fortunate.
Right.
And while that was beneficial to you as far as like writing out that list of like, hey, there's multiple people who trade places with me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like to your point and going through what you went through, like your problems and your hardships and turmoils are still very real.
Sure. Right.
Contextually speaking to you.
Right.
That doesn't make them any less hard.
Right. And everyone's definition of hard, tough times is so different.
Yeah.
And if it feels hard and heavy for them, it's valid.
Like
always.
Alex Hormozy posted this yesterday, right? Like I think he's like literally 18 months older than me. Mm-hmm. And well on his way to being a billionaire before he's 40.
Yeah.
And he posted, he's like, the last couple months have been terrible. And I wanted to post this and tell everyone like, hey, I have hard days too. Yeah. I have hard months too.
Yep.
And right now what I'm going through is a really, really difficult season. Mm-hmm. That's reality. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going. And the thing is too, I get that a lot. People are like, gosh, you're always so happy and life must just be amazing. No, trust me, my life has gone through plenty of roller coasters. Yeah. I choose to be happy. I choose to go, this sucks. These days are going to be hard, but I know it's a season. And what option do I have? Am I going to give up? No, that's not in my nature. And what good would that do anyways? So yeah, you push forward, you push through the hard times, and I still have fun. I talk about in my book too. You got to laugh through the chaos. Some of the craziest days I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? But then you just got to laugh and be like, okay. Yeah, you're testing me. I get it. And I'm up for the challenge. Fine. You're not going to break me. You got to be able to laugh through it because, again, it is the reality of life. Now, you talk about someone like Alex where his life is pretty amazing. But guess what? With success brings more opportunities. You got the weight of the world on your shoulders. Maybe he's had some business issues where he's got hundreds of employees that he cares about and is concerned about. You never know. You never know what people's problems are.
Yeah.
All we can do as humans is try to lift them up and make them understand it's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. May not feel like it, but it's going to be.
Exactly. The book took 4 years. 3 full restarts.
Yeah. Yep.
What was the emotional barrier you were fighting each time that you had to begin again?
Well, so I was offered a book deal and it was like, okay, cool. Sat on it. Like, I'm not an author. What is this? Yeah. What am I going to talk about? then, and I mentioned it, there was a story in here where a young athlete reached out to me. Well, his mom and him had reached out to me. And I was on Generation Iron 3. They did a little documentary. I was part of that movie.
Cool.
My story was documented on the one I just told you, how broke my neck, 9 months, Arnold Classic, tore my ACL, blah, blah, blah. So he had torn his ACL. He was a high school athlete, dreams of the NFL, like an amazing athlete. Colleges were recruiting him. He had this injury and it was devastating. Now, again, his whole world crumbled. What am I going to do? No one's going to pay attention to me. I need to rehab. How am I going to be for my senior year? I just give up. He was in a dark place to the point where he wasn't coming out of his room. His family, friend, no one could help him. Then one day, he literally woke up, came out, and just was like, who are you? His family was like, what is going on? And he had this renewed passion. He was going to rehab. He was going to come back. He was going to be stronger. Well, he shared with his family later that he had seen Generation Iron 3. And, again, I have nothing in common with this kid. I'm a stranger. I am a mom. I'm in a sport that he's nothing to do with football. But something in there resonated. Whoa. I just have an ACL issue. She broke her neck, then tore her ACL, then wins a world championship title, and she's a mom, and she's like, she can do it? Then what is my problem? That is what sparked me to say, okay, remember that, Whitney. Remember that one person whose mom reached out to me and said, you have no idea how valuable you sharing your story was. So I thought, okay, I'll share, but it's awkward to write about yourself. And I don't know about you, but I don't find myself interesting. I'm a goofball. I'm like just ridiculous. So what am I going to write about? Granted, I write about my injuries or, how I started businesses. So I've done tons of podcasts and I would always usually ask so what is it that makes me interested? Why do you want to interview me? Besides the person down the street? So I started kind of getting some feedback about, okay, that could be something cool to put in my book, blah, blah, blah. So I started writing it. And then I thought, this is horrible. I'm not a writer. This is not, I would cringe. I don't like reading stories about me. So long story short, I totally squashed it because I thought it just felt very pompous. You want to read a book about my life and my stories? And it's so not me that I thought I'm not going to do this.
Okay.
But then I thought I read tons of championship mindset books, how to get that perfect mindset and mentality when you're trying to go for a goal. I love business books. So I thought, okay, this book, that's what I should do. Then on my third time that I scratched it, I said, this book doesn't have the quirkiness like my normal personality is. It needs to be goofy, needs to have my voice. And then more importantly, I want it to be something that people read and go, okay, I could do this, or how could this apply? So then I made it after each chapter. It has a lesson, stories about my life, whatever the topic is. And then it goes, all right, Garrett, now, what is it right now in this moment? What is the biggest fear in your life? Think about it. Now let's take these lessons and how I dealt with that. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Take this example. How would you apply step 1? How would you apply step 2? So every chapter has a your turn section that makes you have to think about, okay, what is it I'm experiencing? Whether it's past, current situation, or something you want in the future, let's apply it so that you can realize, okay, I need to level up here, or I could have handled something better there, or it wasn't even that bad, or what am I afraid of anyways? Right. You write it out and you're like, it's actually not that scary. I want it to be something that actually creates change and impacts someone and isn't just a story about my crazy life. Okay, whatever. If people want to read that, I don't get it, but that's fine. But I want it to be something that's applicable to their life. So yeah. That's why it took so long. And then the biggest thing is it needed to have my personality. I was talking to you. And that's what makes it kind of fun. The very random stories that you'll get to read.
Circling back. So mom passes, divorce, business. If you could go back, what would you tell yourself in that moment? in those moments?
I don't know if I would, because I'm so happy with the path.
Yeah.
Because it was so fucking hard.
Yep.
Nothing was easy about it.
No.
And I never thought it would be easy. And I never worried about, okay, a year from now am I going to be able to not be so stressed when it became Christmas for my boys, and what presents am I getting? I never looked ahead. It was like, one day at a time, just go, just keep going, keep pushing, stay focused on the good. Because honestly, if you are leading your life with purpose and passion, you can't steer yourself wrong. So I don't think I would change. Like, people said, gosh, that's horrible. You went through a divorce. Gosh, that's so awful. You lost your mom. 100%. I would not wish that on anyone. But I also don't know what my life would have looked like had those things not happened. Had I not been challenged to really choose, is this my life and is this my destiny? And am I giving it everything I can within my control? Because again, I was comfortable. Life was decent. It wasn't great. Things could always be better, but I had everything I needed. So would I have pushed harder to be better, to be an athlete? Would I have pushed harder to open more businesses and take those risks? I don't think so, but I don't know. But I probably would have just stayed status quo. And why? I mean, that was the one thing as I went I have a chance to start over basically. I don't have the family support and all of this that was keeping me grounded and feeling secure. I didn't have this marriage and this white picket fence path I thought I was going. So now I'm rewriting the entire script. So scratch, rip it up, let's go. What do I want? Yeah. And I had not really looked at my life that way until those moments. But that's also why I say, bring on challenges in life. I mean, the last couple of years even, there have been times I'm like, wow, that was a kick in the face. Yeah. But I now have the ability to go, what is this supposed to teach me? And this is, anything hard is to spring you forward to something greater. And I absolutely believe it. So I don't really, I look at some people and they're like, God, this day. And I'm like, well, you don't have bad days all the time. You don't have good days all the time. But when you have bad days, it helps you appreciate the good. So welcome it. Because tomorrow you may have the best day ever. You never know. One of
my favorite things that I've ever heard in a sermon was this. Oh shoot.
Yeah.
God is not interested in our comfort. He's interested in our character.
Yes. Yep. Totally.
And as I reflect back on my life in everything that I've been through, I completely resonate. There's not a single piece, no matter how hard, no matter how heartbreaking, that I would take away. Because exactly like you said, I don't know. Even this being here, being in this podcast studio, doing this show, doing what I'm doing. I was having lunch and I was reflecting and I was like, there's so many people that would never even do this. And here I am.
Yeah.
Almost 6 months into being in a studio, almost a full year into recording a podcast. Totally. And it's like, huh.
Well, it's taking the risk, right? Yeah. Gosh, why not?
Yeah.
Sadly, I think too many people fear failure. And it's but guess what? If you don't try, I don't ever want to live with regret. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I hate that. And I think our generation, it's you're raised and it's you don't take the risk. Why not? Take the risk, especially when you're young. You don't have much to lose. Yes, if you're the single breadwinner in your family and you have multiple kids, you probably better be a little more strategic in the risks you're taking. But why not? I mean, you don't look at anyone who's highly successful and ask them, did you ever take a risk? And they say no. Anyone who's been super successful has failed so many times, but they don't care. They don't care about it. I've opened multiple businesses, Have all of them failed or have all of them succeeded? No. Have some failed? Yes.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, what was I thinking taking the direction? Again, they're all lessons learned, but it's like, all right, what am I supposed to be taught through this?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Never going to make that mistake again.
Yep.
But then it helps position you to make more strategic risks down the road. You got to take the risk.
You have to. Because you have to.
Yeah.
Your book talks about being broken as a superpower. Describe that? Like, how is being broken a superpower?
Being broken to me has forced me to think out of the box. So, again, to reference injuries, right? So when I have a broken leg, broken ankle, can't do much in regards to jumping, flipping. You really kind of need your lower body. So now you have to think about, okay, what am I going to do? So as an athlete, you have options if you choose to. You can use them as excuses, or you can go, all right, again, even just going to the gym. How do you work out and get cardio in when you're in a full boot?
Mm-hmm.
You still can. There's plenty you can do with your upper body. So I look at it as whenever you're going through a broken moment, make it your superpower. Make it an opportunity to rise above. So injuries, that's an example for an injury. If you're broken, say, because of a breakup, or you're broken because you lost a loved one, why can't you be a person who people look up to and be a role model to say, this is real life, this sucks, this hurts. But now create this bad situation and turn it into something good where people look at you and go, wow, you handled that really well. You handled the death of a child really well by being real and going, this is hard. Here are the steps I'm doing every single day to get through something so difficult. And God forbid anyone go through it. I'm going to be here to guide you. There is always an opportunity to turn bad into good if you choose to. So, and a lot of times that's an easier way, not just look at this as a lesson. Everything happens for a reason. That is cliche. But if you look at it as I need to be a role model for someone, because again, most situations that people are handed that are unfortunate, it's something that others are too. So why can't you be the catalyst to say, I'm going to show you how to do this with grace. And if you put it out there, if you tell your family and friends that, it gives you something to hold accountable to be, okay, on these days that I don't want to be that role model, I need to now. And I have a motto that I always have, for probably 10 years. It's H2G2. And I have it all over my house. The letters H2G2, my boys' rooms. You don't have to, you get to. So say you take any situation. Oh, I broke my leg. Well, I'm supposed to have to go to the gym. Well, you don't have to, you get to. And you get to go to the gym. You get to find a workaround with your ankle. Okay, you broke up with your boyfriend, girlfriend. Well, you have to deal with that. No, you get to, because now you get to decide that was not something that I deserved. I was not being treated. I deserve to be showered with love, attention, support. And it took that situation to realize it. Again, people tell me the positive, the H2G2 spin on losing a loved one. Again, that's a hard one, right? But you don't have to, you get to. You didn't have to spend your life with that person. You, if it's a child, you got to be the mom or the dad of that child for those years. You didn't have to, you got to. So take advantage of the memories that you had. And now you get to be someone that can be a role model to someone going through this in the future. So it is hard when you're in those spots. And trust me, when I've been in dark places, I look at how am I going to take this as a H? How can I flip the script and turn this into a positive? I challenge everyone. And people will message me and I got one for you. All right, challenge me. I'll show you how to flip it. But again, it wasn't always easy, but it's something now that is very easy for me. I wanted my boys to always model it. Mom, I have to go to school. No, don't say that. You get to go to school. Mom, I have to go look for a job. You get to go look for a job. So there's always ways. Take the negative connotation, take the negative voices in the head, flip it. Because now you change the dynamic and the perception of whatever it is you're dealing with. And it's, again, you don't have to be in that spot. You get to. So choose to flip the script, take control of it.
It's funny that you say that because I created a mantra for myself like during a low point. And it was, move your ass, action kills fear. It was something I would say like every day. And it's just like, it's so true. And along the same lines of exactly what you're saying, right? Is you don't have to do anything you get to. And it's like, you don't move.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How has your understanding of personal strength evolved after the loss of your mom and becoming the Miss Olympia champion?
Gosh, it's choosing that I wanted to make a mark. So again, my mom was a school teacher and then she was a counselor. Mm-hmm. It's not like she was this celebrity.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, at her funeral, I could not believe it was overflowing from the church. We had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Kids from years of her teaching, word got out. It was unheard of for any of us to even comprehend the amount. I mean, I'm talking hundreds of people. And again, for us, it's just our mom. We're like, oh, she's of course amazing. We had no idea the impact that she had on all of these kids. So for me, it was like, okay, what is my impact? What is my legacy? At that point too, it's like, what am I going to do good in the world? When I'm done, when my time on earth is done, how will I be remembered? Well, if I'm not putting forth action or doing something to create my legacy that really has such a positive impact, I'm wasting my life. So, it's like, okay, well, so I had to start with, what do I enjoy? What do I love? Well, I was going through a very hard time, but I love the ability to control the effort that I put into something every day where I can have a moment of, I'm proud of myself. You did X, Y, Z each day. Well, I love that. Now, did I think again that I would ever, be at the top of the sport? No. But I thought, okay, this is good. I can again show people I'm going through a lot. I'm still showing up for myself every single day. Then as I'm coaching athletes and coaching lifestyle clients, they're going, wow, so you have your son's practice right now and you just got done training me and you only have 20 minutes and you're not sitting down. You're actually getting a quick workout in. And why? Because I get to do it. And I'm choosing, I'm taking control. And now when you try to give me an excuse, I know you're not going to. Because you see me showing up and doing everything for me to hold me accountable to my goals. So it kind of had this ripple effect, right? Well, then again, being on a bigger platform, having an opportunity to be a promoter at shows and provide a fun opportunity for athletes to step on stage and get to celebrate all of their hard work. Like, how am I giving back? That's what's really helped resonate my personal strength. There is strength and no one cares about how much money you have and the house you live in, the car. Like, that's cool. They're like, wow, I would love to have that. But again, at the end of the day, that's not what people are going to remember you for. That's not what people talk about at funerals. Mm-hmm. That rad Corvette you showed up and no one cares. It's the person you are. It's the character. Mm-hmm. That's what I always wanted to be known for. Mm-hmm. And so how you show up, how you treat the waiter, how your manners when someone opens the door for you, all of those things matter. I wanted to be known as anyone that would bring up my name would be like, yeah, oh, she's so nice, or she's so giving, or she's so funny, or man, that chick's goofy, whatever it is. I wanted to be able to at least make sure that my name was resonating with something positive, and that was, I was a good human. And so that if anyone ever said anything negative about me, they'd be like, are we talking about the same person? And again, you can't control what everybody says, but at the end of the day, that's what makes me happy. And now with my kids, I love it when teachers or coaches come up and they say, man, your son And it's like, good. Like you just want that to be what resonates when someone says someone's name. Do you think good or bad? And it's how you live your life. It's how you show up every day. And that's to me what really personal strength, personal character is all about.
100%. In a world that often celebrates perfection, you're championing brokenness. What is the lesson that you learned about true strength that has nothing to do with physical muscle?
Gosh, I mean, I'll be the first person to say there's nothing perfect about me. But I also knew early on, I'm like, I didn't grow up with money. My friends got some cars. Like, so you look at perfect, that's usually when you're younger. Oh, your life is perfect because you have money and you've got the family and you've got all these things, right? Just because we don't know any better. Then as you get older, oh, you're perfect because your physique and oh, you're pretty and you have a great job and you have a good spouse. So perfect is always going to be something that if you strive for it, you'll never reach it. It's not, someone will always tell you you're not perfect. So why try? Mm-hmm. I knew early on my life was never going to be perfect and that was okay. I think because most of the people I was surrounded by were far from perfect. They didn't have everything. So I actually went through a stage of my life where I was really uncomfortable around highly successful and rich people. And one of my friends was like, you got to get over this. Yeah. But I felt like, oh, I'm not enough for them because I'm just this normal girl. And again, that was another kick to go, you don't need to be them, just be you. So, and especially with this age of social media where again, everything is presented as perfect. No one's perfect. As soon as you realize that, makes life a lot easier to be you in it. And if you are in the forefront and you're proactive and you're ahead of it to be like, oh yeah, I'm not perfect. You see these scars? I mean, like this bone will never be back. And it is the ugliest thing. I draw faces on it when it gets super high. And then I'm like, look, I got hair. I'll just cover it. I am broken. I am a mess. I will be the first to admit it. But when you own it, everyone just embraces it and they kind of laugh and love it because you're like, oh, you're human. You're not perfect. Yeah. The facade of perfection makes you unapproachable. And people just think, oh, they're better than me. Or worse, they think they're better than me and I have zero desire to even interact. Either way, why do you want to be perceived as perfect? No. People want to feel comfortable and welcomed and like you're their best friend. Well, guess what? The best way to do that is to make sure people know you're not perfect. Embrace your imperfections and you're good to go.
Couldn't agree more. To wrap the show, everyone gets asked the same question. So, Intentional Health for Women podcast. How are you living intentionally in the next season, in this coming season of your life?
Gosh, for me, so this year, because I am a natural workaholic, it's like one thing's off the plate and I'm like, oh, there's a spot. Let's fill it. I'm usually great when it comes to my boys, always. Like I am present, phone off, whatever, unless it's a rare situation. I'm not always the best if it's not my boys. And now they're older. So I have an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. So one's in college, so now it's going, okay, they don't need mom to help them walk because they're going to fall and slip. They're far from that. But where am I being present? So this year, my focus is making sure I have good quality time with my friends. I have an amazing guy in my life. I want to be present and always again, it's easy when he's there. He knows I'm crazy busy to be like, hey, I'm going to work right here. And this year, that is not what I want to do. Work will always be there. Success will always be there. If we're trying to be more, are the people going to be there? Not if you're not intentional with your time and how you show up for them and making sure you actually are giving to them. I think a lot of people get in that state of receiving and they forget that you should always be trying to give more to everyone in your life, more than you get back. So for me, my intentions are to be more present, to enjoy these phases of life, especially with my youngest, who's only got a few more years in high school, really embracing the time with him and just the relationships. My intentions are focused on really cultivating the best relationships I can with family, friends, my boys, and making it the best. So by the end of this year, I want to say, wow, I never thought I could be more close and connected to all of you. That's my intention for this year.
Love it. Where can we find you?
You can find, Instagram is my go-to. And if you follow me, I apologize in advance. Do so at your own risk because I like to post a bunch of randomness, but still good content. But my Instagram is Whitney Jones _IFBB Pro. My book is on Amazon, When Broken. So it's right here. Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
Yes. And then obviously I have a company, Unstoppable 365, where it's coaching, health, fitness, mindset. We have a doctor that helps on the medical side with hormones, blood work. And then my website, fitwithjones.com. So those are the probably easiest ways to find me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is awesome. And I can't wait to see all the craziness that's going to happen for you this year and excited for you to experience your first show. You're going to like it.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
It'll totally be fun. I'm going to be making sure of it.
Oh, yeah. If this episode brought you value, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. We are not normal. We are intentional.